Ghana's former president, John Mahama, of the opposition National Democratic Congress, NDC, made a historic return to power in the West African country in an election generally described as one of the most transparent in Africa's recent political history. It also saw Nigeria's neighbor continuing its tradition of conducting almost seamless general polls, with the ruling party's candidate and current vice president, Mahamudu Bawumia, conceding defeat even before the Electoral Commission called the final results. For the winner, who was the country's president from 2012 to 2017, it was his third attempt to reclaim the presidency after falling short in 2016 and 2020 elections. The Electoral Commission has said it will announce official results on Tuesday. Meanwhile, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has congratulated President-elect John Dramani Mahama on his victory in the December 7 general election in Ghana following his opponent's concession speech. In a telephone call to Mahama, President Tinubu hoped that Mahama's ascension to power for the second time would further bring stability to the economic community of West African states, ECOWAS, of which President Tinubu is the chairman. President Tinubu commended the people of Ghana for their commitment to democracy, which was demonstrated through the peaceful and successful conduct of both the presidential and parliamentary elections. He applauded Ghanaians for demonstrating again to the world that democracy is the preferred path to achieving political stability, economic development, social justice, and transparent governance in Africa. He affirmed that Nigeria's and the region's belief in the principles of the people's right to choose their leaders freely will remain a source of pride. The Nigerian leader applauded the candidate of the governing New Patriotic Party, NPP, the Vice President of Ghana, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, for conceding defeat before the official announcement by Ghana's Electoral Commission. President Tinubu said Bawumia's stance reinforced Ghana's democratic ethos. Joining us now from Accra, Ghana, is Arise Chief Correspondent Adetokunbo Oyetunji. Good morning and welcome, and great to have you on the morning show today, live from Accra, Ghana.
Good morning, Ayo. Thank you very much for joining us here in Accra. It's Akwaba to you.
Akwaba.
That's how we say to each other in Ghana here.
All right. So tell us, I know some people have said celebrating, especially the supporters of former President John Mahama. But what is a general review of the elections over the weekend? I know results haven't yet been officially announced by the Electoral Commission in Ghana, but what would be your assessment of the elections and the emergence of Mr. Mahama as president-elect, well, when the results are announced?
Well, Ayo, thank you very much. Like you rightly put it in that intro you read before coming to us, I mean, the election in Ghana just restates the poster boy status of Ghana as a very good example of democracy in the West African sub-region. Let's state it here that the build-up to the election was actually a bit scary to some observers of the situation. The rhetorics that characterized the campaigns, the exchange of hot words between the leading parties, the National Patriotic Front, which is outgoing now, and the National Democratic National Party, I beg your pardon, and the National Democratic Congress, which is coming in now, represented by the man of the moment, Mr. John Mahama. It was so intense that there were fears that there could be violence. And let's equally state it, violence there was in some areas, at least not less than 2 people, were killed in areas across Ghana. But the police said they have arrested people and people are going to be actually, they are going to actually pay. Beyond that and a few other, issues, which we can just pass. The election has been generally transparent, and apart from that issue that I just pointed out, I would say generally peaceful in his conduct. So the message of the president of Nigeria, who is the chairman of the ECOWAS Commission, praising the process in Ghana. That is what we are getting from other people too, from across the world, praising the process. But, I mean, you and I now know who is the presumed winner, the president-elect of Ghana. But the Electoral Commission has not been able to officially announce the result 48 hours after. And we're not sure that they come today. It's most likely going to come on Tuesday. I mean, what is holding the process of announcing officially the winner of this election? That is an issue that the Ghanaian authorities and the Electoral Commission will really have to address moving forward. But generally, the conduct of this election has been very, very okay, transparent, and acceptable to majority of the people. And like you rightly mentioned earlier when you were actually introducing this, majority of Ghanaians, not just supporters of Mr. Mahama alone, have trooped to the streets to actually celebrate even when the official result is yet to be announced. That tells you so much about the process.
There's been so much talk about lessons that Nigerians can learn from the Ghanaian process. I've heard a lot of people saying a lot of things about lessons. You are the man on the ground with the Arise crew. What lessons do you think we can learn? You also covered the Nigerian elections. What are the lessons that the Ghanaians are teaching us?
Number one lesson, Dr. Abati, is, I mean, voting, going to vote on that, you know, observing the voting process. That, in fact, was my cameraman that actually first pointed it out. That good, I can see that people are coming into the polling unit. Some of them without their voter card, and they have been allowed to actually they were being accredited and they were allowed to vote. I mean, the Electoral Commission put the process in place that even if you don't have your voter ID, just go into the polling unit. As long as your name is on the voter register and they can identify your face and they can capture your fingerprint, you go ahead and vote. Of course, we know, Dr. Abati, that is not the situation in Nigeria. If you don't have your voter card, you cannot vote. That is number one lesson for me. Secondly, sir, a process, like I pointed out, the rhetorics, the exchange, the heated exchange between the political parties, you know, actually brought fears into the minds of several people observing the process, thinking, oh, this election, Ghana may just collapse. Ghana, there may just be widespread violence. Like I said, there was violence which is so condemnable. But generally, eventually, the people, the participants, the politicians themselves realized that no matter what happens, Ghana should be the eventual winner. And that's exactly what we saw in the incumbent vice president and a leading contestant, the candidate of the National Patriotic Party, Alhaji Mahama, conceding defeat even when the official result is yet to be announced. I mean, that is another lesson. Of course, like I said earlier in one of my reports, that maybe Alhaji Bawumia, Dr. Bawumia was just taking a cue from Nigeria's president, former president Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. Okay, but we need to continue to learn that lesson. That no matter what the process is, as long as we see that the process is transparent, we don't have to. It doesn't have to be, if I don't get it, no other person gets it. Dr. Abati. So those are some of the lessons. I mean, there are several others, but at least I know time will not permit us to actually go on and on, you know, and talk about all the lessons that we can learn. But generally, I think Ghana has just shown us, demonstrated to us again that we can do it no matter how. No matter what our differences are, and allow the country to win eventually.
Okay, so Tokubo, let's talk about violence. There was a lot of violence reported. In fact, the electoral body in a certain region was burnt. The electoral body house was burnt in a certain region. There was violence, there was a standoff between the people and the authorities. You know, let's talk about those violence incidents and how, you know, the Ghanaian people still stood by their ballots. It was not that there were no attempts to rig. There were many attempts to rig. But the Ghanaian people stood tall. Let's talk about the violence and how Ghanaian people stood tall and defended the ballot. Maybe that's another lesson. Let's talk about that.
Rufai, you're very correct. I mean, that's another lesson really that Nigeria and the rest of West Africa and Africa can learn from this process here. Like you said, there were attempts to rig. The rule is that no military man should go close to a voting center. There was a situation where a man in the neighborhood challenged, I think, four military personnel who are approaching a voting center for whatever reason nobody knew. But the man had to challenge them that no, according to the rules, they were not supposed to be near the voting center. It's degenerated into some kind of physical combat that the military men had to actually shoot into the air. But eventually they were prevented from going near the voting center to carry out whatever mission they had. I mean, people were very, very resolute in coming out to vote and at the same time defending their votes. That is a lesson we must learn. The people were ready for a change, and anything that was going to prevent that change legally they were ready to actually stand up and ensure that they don't allow it to happen. Okay, talking about violence, I mean, just yesterday evening, that's why I pointed out the fact that 48 hours after the Electoral Commission has not been able to actually give us an official result. And that is actually putting a lot of Ghanaians, especially the young ones, who just want to listen to the man that they have elected as their new president. Because without the official result, I mean, it's still like a rumor. That's why we call the man presumed president-elect. So the agitations from some of the coalition centers at the regions actually led to the attack on some of the facilities, some of the property belonging to the Electoral Commission, and that actually escalated the violence, to some level. And so those are the issues that going forward the authorities here actually need to address, and other countries, in this sub-region and across the region actually need to take a lesson from.
Well, thank you so much, Tokumo Yetunju, for your reporting. You have been working also the weekend and bringing us live updates right from Saturday when the polls opened in Ghana, across cities in Ghana. Thank you very much.